What gives this car its look of total performance? First, inside. An interior that's inviting, comfortable, and sporty. Now outside. The unique grille, long hood, low top, and short rear deck. Round wheel openings to emphasize the wheels and suggest power and performance.
I think of the muscle car era as starting about 1964 with the GTO, because it was the large motor and a small or intermediate package. From the Roadrunners and the Cudas to the Camaros and the Firebirds, I've had quite a few of them. I think they're not nearly the multi-faceted vehicles of today's modern muscle cars, but the rawness of those cars was really part of the fun. The air conditioning, forget it. Air conditioning is a drag on our performance. We're not going to do that. But we loved it, and it was all about the sound and the power and the torque and all the things that we could do with it. And they were just fun cars to drive, and we really enjoyed that. The muscle car was really a crude machine. It was one of those vehicles that
I'm going to go light to light and just go straight drag racing. In my head, a muscle car is a more stock suspension, maybe mildly modified, right? Big block carburetor, turbo 400, maybe not an overdrive, you know.
Classic car, 50 plus years old. So anything over 50 miles per hour, the suspension would wobble.
And what we've noticed, there's kind of a change of the guard with the old muscle cars, where for the longest time, the owner wanted to put it back the way it was when it was brand new. But the only thing bad about that, it's not comfortable. And it's, as far as styling wise, they didn't really put a lot of thought into the interiors back. It was about the motor and the performance of the car.
Somebody I haven't brought up yet is Carroll Shelby. I got to know Carroll in the 80s. I did a story with him at Hot Rod. The Shelby showed up in '65 because he was forced to. Ford said, you got to build the Mustangs or you can't get the motors for the Cobras. So he used to call them secretary's cars. Well, those cars were pretty awesome, especially if we look back, '65, '66. I personally like the 67s. I really like his GT350s and the GT500s that he put the big blocks in.
I was that young kid going through Craigslist and magazines, seeing these beautiful 67 fastbacks. And for me, I was like, I want a 1967 fastback. After seeing Nicolas Cage and Go Shelby Go, and I knew at that time that the Mustang was for me. My name's Jesus Macias. I am a fire captain for the city of Montebello. I've been there for just about 7 years. So my Mustang is a 1967 Ford Mustang fastback. So I did a full-on disc conversion. Front coilovers in the front, dual adjustable Viking shocks at the back, new leaf springs, sway bar. That handled nicely. The engine was rebuilt in '08 and also painted in '08. So the paint was good and the motor was good. So I started doing all the interior. I'm big on the resto-mod. You know, some people want to have that classic car and just make it exactly how it came out of the factory, but for me, I want to make it personalized and have exactly how I want it. With the red stitching, charcoal, and black, I want to see the VXR Pro Series, low back. Whole TMI door panels, console, seat together. It's just driving a modern vehicle with that classic car. It's day and night, but just to have these classic cars and have that longevity by putting these performance parts and giving you that horsepower, giving you the braking capability, giving you that comfort, and still have that image is my dream.
There was a demand for cars that were beyond what the factory was offering. And you would think that you know, a 396 Camaro or you know, a 426 Hemi would be more than enough to satisfy any person, but it wasn't. The Corvette at that time had an L72 option, which was a 425 horse 427. Don Yenko was a a racer, he put them into big block Camaros, specialty Camaro. But the Chevelles were also very interesting because the car was a longer wheelbase, so it handled better.
And you jump in our Chevelle and put your foot in it, it's like, okay. It's like I said, it's a difference of night and day. It had a big block in it and whatnot, but it also had a Yenko paint scheme. So it was a wannabe Yenko, if you will, and we weren't gonna have that. Send it out and get the wrap on it because there was no time to get the car painted. Use the same kind of color scheme on the outside as we were doing to the inside, so it pulled the vehicle all together. All this horsepower, and then you jump in it, go around a corner and go sliding side to side, slide over onto the passenger side. So not only for appearance, but in function, when you're sitting in the car, when it has the raised bolsters, it holds you secure in the car. Hey, why don't you do that for the Chevelle? Why don't you do this for the Chevelle? So it kind of, by demand, it forced the hand. Our hot selling molded door panels, we did the one-piece headliner, we did dash pad, we did this split rear upholstery where it's actually a complete seat replacement, and it had a center waterfall center console going down the center, which almost kind of splits it up into 2 bucket seats.
What's interesting about the pro touring movement of cars is that it's been an evolution. We know the exact point in time that pro touring started, unlike a lot of other genres of car building, because there's one man that's responsible for that, who is Mark Steelo. In the 1990s, he was competing in the One Lap of America Challenge in a 1969 Camaro that he dubbed tri-tip, and tri-tip meaning street, strip, and track. These guys are putting modern suspension on there. The cars are able to go around a corner faster, so they're carrying more speed through the corner. And that's in part also because they're doing modern LS engines or things with fuel injection to where they're making 800 horsepower, which is unheard of 20, 30 years ago in a street car.
But these cars were just fast. You know, when you have a 700 horsepower car, it doesn't matter what you put it in. That's if you have that engine, you're going to go fast.
And so you really see this evolution happen within the pro touring cars that's pretty interesting to watch.
Today, the muscle cars have really been thought through much better. They're faster by a long shot, way faster, and that's a combination of tires and performance and just packaging. And they're so much more comfortable.
So really what TMI has done is evolutionized these interiors to stay up with all the other parts of the car. So it's not just about having a fancy looking interior, it's about an interior that actually works with the rest of the car.
You know, the idea of taking a car and actually making it your own, but adding all the modern amenities to it so that it was something you wanted to drive, not something that was a chore to drive. And I fell in love with the movie American Graffiti at probably the age of 14. And not knowing anything about really like the mechanics of a car, I wanted to be Harrison Ford in a 55 Chevy. My family came from Malaysia and Singapore. You know, I'm first generation US born. And to me, that is American. You know, there's something very American about an American muscle car, you know, and that was something also that I wanted to learn more about because that was always very foreign to my family. You know, to them, a car was to get you from A to B. You know, I started working for a wheel company back then. I worked for Alan Budnick over at Budnick Wheels. That was the beginning of the pro touring scene really, was introduced to me while I worked over at Budnick, and I fell in love with it. A pro touring car is, I'm gonna get in it, turn the key, and I'm gonna be able to drive anywhere fast and comfortably, and it's gonna perform, and it's gonna be something that, you know, is probably got fuel injection, and it's gonna run a lot cleaner, but it's gonna also be a lot stronger as far as horsepower is concerned. I went with the Blueprint LS with an iron block, they're aluminum heads, and it was already, would have made probably 550 horsepower. But with the Magnuson, we're making 750 now at the motor. It's going to be a vehicle where, I can accelerate quicker, but brake quicker. I can fit bigger brakes in it because I did go to bigger wheels, suck in and bring all that suspension inside the back of the wheel. So now I can run a wider wheel. So, with the wheels, I actually designed a new wheel for it, just particularly to kind of just kick off this build. And it's an 8-spoke mini light-esque type of wheel. Found myself now working at Curry Enterprises, where we build performance rear ends for exactly that, performance automobiles. Leaf springs in the trash can. Went with a new 4-link from TCI, swivel Johnny joints on both ends of the control arm, so now the suspension works. So it's got ride-tech adjustable coilovers on it now, so I can adjust it so that if I'm just driving on the street, a couple clicks left and we're smooth, and if I want to get to the track, a couple clicks right, and now I've got a stiffer suspension on it. But the style of the car that I had in my mind, wasn't high-back race seats with 5-point harness. In my mind, I wanted an interior that still kind of felt quasi-60s, but looked upgraded and modern. I said, I can see it in my vision. I can see it, and I know it's going to work well. Work with me here. And I looked at them and I said, you know what? I want the interior to match this. And that, I think, kind of did it for them. It kind of clicked like, yeah, that does look good. Those colors do look good. I kind of see what you're going for now. The colors that I wanted to run, it was a perfect match. It had the right suede and the black and the white and the red. It's not like a drag car. It doesn't squat and want to, it doesn't do that. It just, and it just goes. And it is a blink of an eye, gone. And when you're in it, you suck into that seat and you're not moving around and things just start doing this until you stop. You have to think outside of the box now to do something different, because there are many a part that fit into a 67 to 69 Camaro that's already just manufactured and very easy to do. Whereas with doing something outside of that F-body platform, it allows you to use your imagination a little bit more.
For some people, today's muscle cars are the only muscle cars they're considered. It's like the parent, grandparent. If you're the parent, you're dealing with the child all the time. If you're the grandparent, you deal with it and then you give it back. That's kind of the modern muscle car orientation. You don't have to be engaged to really enjoy what you've got.
It is not yesterday's standard of, no, a 69 Camaro can only have this particular wheel on it because that's how it has to be. You have the luxury to build a car to the vision that you have in your head now.